You said something about the Westboro Baptist Church. You had an interaction with them. Can you? What happened with that?
Yeah, I was just going to ask the same thing. Like, what happened with
Yeah,
Westboro?
please.
Okay. Do I have to watch my language on the show?
Absolutely not.
Okay. In case there are kids watching, I will be careful. But I was at a town hall in Bucks County, Pennsylvania.
Bucks County, my hometown.
My hometown. I'm Montgomery County, so we're kissing cousins. But the I got to be careful with this.
I don't know why. They talk about us Pennsylvania boys like that. So
yeah, we got to be careful. We got to be careful. I was at this town hall, and there were two women hanging out in the sides, and they started writing notes when people were testifying. Where Jay Hahn, a famous doctor in this space, was giving his testimony, they were writing down and they were whispering to each other, and they clearly weren't there being supportive. And in the middle of it, they just started standing up and asking questions of Senator Fulmer that were clearly demonstrating their lack of support. And after it, I went up to him and I introduced myself and I asked them, and thankfully, they didn't tell me that I was going to hell, or they didn't say God hates fags, or anything that demonstrates their progressiveness or lack thereof. And they were explaining to me their position against it, and it was sad. It was sad. They were talking about the addiction potential. They were talking about kids. They were talking about gateway drugs. And normally, I mean, I had this conversation. It used to be much more so, but I see Pennsylvanians are much more progressive than we used to be. You know, when we talk about gateway drugs, you know, I ask them, you know, they're afraid that if we have legal cannabis, then suddenly we're going to have legal crack. Or, you know, you're going to go from cannabis to crack. And I told them, I said, when was the last time, I mean, you obviously don't drink, but anyone you know to be, you know, responsible, who has a glass of wine every now and then, when was the last time they went to the state store, got a bottle of Chianti, and the state store attendant say, hey, you know what would go great with that? Some heroin. It doesn't happen. And it was very respectful. But you can tell when people aren't listening and they have an agenda. Mm-hmm. And, you know, thankfully these people, yeah, they're dinosaurs. I mean, these people, our grandkids, are going to sit in our lap one day, and I hope our listeners can imagine this. Our grandkids are going to be in our laps, and they're going to say, you know, Grandpa, Grandma, what was it like living in the age of Prohibition? What was it like knowing that people were actively against our vets and our sick kids from getting medicine they need? And I feel proud that we're fighting it. I mean, this is a civil issue. This is a civil rights issue, and, you know, we're going to be able to tell our grandkids, we took a stand against that. We took a stand against them.
Did you just say that?
I did.
It's a civil rights issue?
Absolutely.
Man, I used to get beaten in the head for saying that.
You've been saying that for years.
It's not a civil rights issue. I mean, black people get mad. No, it's not, man. You just want to do drugs.
Yeah, I mean, again, like, everything that you said just speaks to how effective, like, massive propaganda is, you know, in spreading misinformation and fear. And that the fear is really, you know, what drives their, you know, their not support, you know, like they're afraid that all hell is going to break loose, like that people are going to be on drugs and shit's going to be really crazy. And if they would just visit places like Colorado, or, you know, I went to Amsterdam and that's where I saw for the first time, you know, like, oh, wow, it's actually cleaner and nicer and, like, people are prettier here. Like, you know, I didn't see any down effects to it, you know, and so I think seeing is believing, and I think that if we do at least get medicine to people and they see how it helped kids, like Tuffy, you know, Tuffy is a little girl that's part of our community, and she has been healed by cannabis in the last year and a half, and people that have known her have seen the visual change, you know, and it's undeniable. It's undeniable that this has given her life. So I think the more people we see that are, like, cured from cancer, or, you know, just getting serious treatment for their arthritis or their PTSD, like Don, you know, that they'll be able to change their minds, because the cognitive dissonance runs deep.
But not only that, I mean, let's take a look at other social benefits. If we take a look, I mean, you mentioned Colorado. Let's take a look at states where they have comprehensive medical access, safe medical access, and we're taking a look at drastic 25 to 33% reductions in OxyContin overdoses. In Pennsylvania, and I believe in New Jersey as well, we have an epidemic that's a pandemic. Seriously, we have problems, serious deep-rooted problems with heroin addictions.
There's been over 600 people have overdosed in New Jersey already this year.
No.
That's disgusting.
And the number of arrests, 26,000 people in the state of New Jersey. Like, that is just really, really wasteful and crazy. And I do think that when you crunch the numbers for people, you show them, and then you do show them studies that legislators like Mayor Nutter in Philadelphia have been, quote unquote, enlightened, is what he said. I've been enlightened. I read the research, and now I support it. Like, imagine that, we're a world where our legislators inform themselves and then they support us. Can you tell me about Dave Reed? Do you know anything about him? He is the House majority leader for the Republicans in Pennsylvania, and I went to college with him. And he's the youngest. He was like the youngest representative ever, and he's the House Majority Leader. So, do you know if he supports what we're doing, or is he against it?
Wholeheartedly and unreservedly. David Reed is a huge friend of and ally of our cause. The reason we don't have medical access yet in Pennsylvania was because our past House Majority Leader was completely against this. He insisted on a supermajority, which means basically you have to have every legislator and their grandmother signing on it. Dave Reed, he's signed on. He wants to help us out, and he's okay. Just a 50% plus one majority. If we have that support, which we do, we can get a floor vote on it.
That's awesome. And it's like he's a young guy. It's a generational difference, I think, for a lot of these old dinosaurs in Pennsylvania, that have been in office forever. And by and large, the legislators in the Philadelphia area have been pretty. How are they in Montgomery County?
Fully supportive. That's the homestead of Dale and Leach, the biggest advocate we have in Pennsylvania for it. We're just in Montgomery County, Philadelphia, and Pennsylvania at large. We're sick of spending money and arresting people for this. We're sick of our veterans coming home and 22 a day killing themselves. We're sick of this, and there were two fairly recent polls. University of Quinnipiac and Franklin Marshall. We have Pennsylvania support for medical access 84-85%. A recent poll last month, the University of Quinnipiac, 88%. That's astounding.
Yeah, that's right. We read there's poll statistics on the air. Quinnipiac University. No, it's true. It's like I said. It's not just these Philly.com polls. These are legitimate surveys, and it's overwhelming. So
from the outside looking in at Pennsylvania, it looks like the southeastern portion of Pennsylvania is totally down with legalization, and a little patch around the Pittsburgh area. But the rest of the state seems to be against it. I mean, is that how you look at it?
What you're explaining is the Pennsyltucky effect.
Yes.
so the common perception of Pennsylvania is we got Pittsburgh on one side, Philly on the other side, and Pennsyltucky in the middle. And that could be the case, but for cannabis, again, that's not the case. 88%.
Yeah.
And not only that percentage isn't just a Facebook poll. It's not a Philly.com poll. This is a real poll, A. And B, these numbers, they translate to the ballot box. 100% of the people who were either prime sponsors or co-sponsors of SB3 or HB 193 universally and by landslide won their primaries. So we're talking Fulmer, who he ran unopposed, but Wozniak, Williams, Tartaglione, Blake, people from different political affiliations across the spectrum, across the state. So this shows our politicians, not only is this a safe issue to come out of the closet in support of this, but if you don't, heaven help you.
Mm-hmm. It's in your history.
They're showing results.
It's in your blood. I mean, come on. I'm sure you know our boy, Mr. Hemp, Les Stark.
Of course.
Pennsylvania is the home of hemp, it's really crazy that we don't grow it here.
Give a big shout out to Hemp Land Security and Keystone Cannabis Coalition.
Yeah.
Join them on Facebook.
And Les Stark.
Hey,
Les Stark and Erica, too.
With those numbers, as far as the polls show, with those numbers, they should translate in courtrooms and juries, too. I don't see if you have 80% of the people think that marijuana should be legal. If you went on a trial, and you argue the law's wrong and not me, you know, you
saying jury nullification?
You should get 8 people on your jury then, or 6 people, or 5
Can you
people.
cite statistics at trial like that?
No one takes it to trial.
Or is that
It's
some like Law and Order shit?
Everybody
90% of
Can you tell me what
take
surveys
pleas.
show that?
I'm not a criminal defense lawyer, but all of my sympathetic criminal defense guys, and Patrick Nightingale in Pittsburgh, normal, he'd be the guy to talk about this. But he's somebody I trust to start something like this.
Yes, another one of our lawyer allies.
With him, yeah, I've communicated with him a few times.
So I have a question for you, because New York now is on the path for medical marijuana, and they just said that they were going to start accepting applications, and it's $10,000 just to apply and $200,000 registration fee. Do you imagine that the same structure is going to take place in Pennsylvania?
So New York, that's just unfortunate. That's $10,000. You put that on the table, you're never seeing that again.
Non-refundable.
$200,000. That's conditionally refundable. I don't know what the conditions are, but hopefully these guys who don't get their licenses will get it. And there's only 5 licenses available. You have to control the entire supply chain. You have to be vertically integrated in New York. Pennsylvania is different. The outcomes are different under SB3 or HB 193. In SB3, which I believe is going to be closer to the final structure of the cannabis structure in Pennsylvania, there are limits on the number of grows, processors, distributors, but not labs. So there's going to be 65 grows, 65 processors, 130 dispensaries, and potentially unlimited number of labs.
130. There's 3 in New Jersey for 9 million people. Like, that is just like...
There's 600 in Los Angeles alone.
That's crazy.
Just 5,000.
I heard there's supposed to be one in
the state of
East
California,
Rutherford in New Jersey, opening up. But hey, Steve, I'd like to thank you for coming into our show.
Thanks.
It was very insightful, and it's a pleasure getting to know you a little bit better. Can you let our listeners know how they can reach out and get more connected and more related,
involved with the Cannabis Growers Association of
and
PA.
everything that you're doing?
Sure. So if the listeners are interested in just getting more blanket information and legislative updates, I'd encourage you to join the Keystone Cannabis Coalition. That's Les Stark and Erica's organization. If you are interested in opening up a dispensary, feel free to reach out to me on my website, Keystone Cannabis Law. And I want to thank everyone for having me.
Great.
Thank you so
Steve,
much.
thank you.
Now,
You're welcome to hang out with us if you want. We'll be here for a couple hours if you have nothing else to do until you get down. I know you have something to do later, but you know, 2:30, right?
Come on, man.
What time you got to leave here? You got to go. You got to go, man. Go do. You got important stuff to do, man.
Yeah,
Thanks,
appreciate
guys.
your time.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for having us. Thanks for having you.
all right.
Appreciate
Now,
it.
Tuning in to Fully Baked Radio. Coming up, we have Carol Millman. We also have our Indie Artist of the Month, Illuminati Congo, and news by our one and only Vanessa Maria. Stay tuned to Fully Baked Radio. If you'd like to call in and join our show, the new number to call in is 862-259-2253. Let's stay baked, guys. We'll be right back. Fully Baked.